Today we'll go into investing, and then we'll spend time talking about spending, budgeting, debt management, insurance. We'll see how far we go. I mean, there is absolutely no rush. I don't want to rush through these things. If we end up talking just about investing or just investing and spending today, well, then fine. Then we'll have the fourth installment next time, and we'll talk about the rest. Absolutely no rush. But I just want us to have a rich discussion and allow freedom in this group to kind of come in and add a point, ask a question. Let's have a very interactive discussion here today, guys. So yeah. Right. So we've talked about. Oh, hang on a second. We've talked about that. We've talked about all that. Right. So today we're going to talk about investing. This is where we start. And to start this off, I want to make something clear. There is a huge difference between business and investment, and I've had a conversation with a lot of people, and I've realized we sometimes confuse these two things, and sometimes we confuse them because it could be because we don't quite understand the distinction, or two, we may understand the distinction logically or intellectually, but when it comes to practically, we haven't got the foresight, maybe is not the right word, but we cannot quite tell at the beginning whether what we're getting ourselves into, whether it's investment or it's business, and sometimes not knowing that can be in itself an undoing, and that itself can be a problem. When you get yourself into a venture or an endeavor, and you think you're investing, but actually you're starting a business, or you think you're starting a business, but you're actually investing. If you don't quite know the difference and you don't quite know what you're getting yourself into, that itself can create lots of problems. So it's very important to understand the difference between these two things. Now in its simplest definition, business requires input of own time and skill. In other words, it's active. You remember at the beginning when I was talking about the distinction between business and finance, and I said that when you talk of business is how you make your money, okay, and finance is how you manage what you've already made, okay. And when we talk of business, we said business in that general sense is, I'm not talking of entrepreneurship. I'm not talking of starting a new venture. All I'm saying, business generally is how you make your money. So if you're employed, that's your business. You know, if you're a minister of religion, and that's how you get your income, then that's your business. You know, so business in that loose sense is anything basically that you're making income from, what you do to earn a living. But in this case, you see that business requires input of own time and skill. So whether you're employed, self-employed, or you're running your own business, basically you have to put your skills in, you have to put in your time. It doesn't matter at what level, whether you are a manager, you are the CEO, whatever level you are, as long as it's a business, it's something that you do, you have to put your own time and skill. So it's active. Investment, however, is passive. Investment is when your money is working for you. So when we talk of investment, it's things that you do that you don't have to clock in time, or you don't have to clock in your energy or your skills. So your skills could be completely irrelevant. You know, I could invest in an oil and gas company, and I absolutely have no qualification whatsoever when it comes to oil and gas. But I've invested in that company because basically I've just put my money in there, and basically I'm owning a stake of that company. Whatever profits they make, a share of it is mine. You understand? So investment doesn't require my skill, and it also doesn't require my time. I might be asleep at night, and a company up in Japan, they're a completely different time zone while I'm asleep. It's cashing in money for me. So it doesn't require my time as well. And it doesn't even require my energy. You know, I don't even physically have to be there to actually work or spend time making phone calls or doing this or that to ensure that that money is coming in. No, all I needed to do is to just invest my money in there and let my money work for me. That's what investment is. So you can see business is active, investment is passive. Now, the reason I'm insisting on this difference is so many people have made the mistake of saying, I'm starting an investment. Oh, I'm investing my money. I've been working so hard. I've been saving. Now I've got £10,000. I'm looking for a place to invest my money. So what do? They open up a grocery store, okay, or a corner shop. I want to invest my money, so I'm starting a corner shop. Now, in his mind, he's thinking he's investing. He's thinking that I've got my money is going to work for me. What he doesn't realize is that by starting that corner shop, he's going to spend the first year running around looking for all the licenses and permits and running away with government agencies and HMRC trying to get this solved and that solved and getting this done, which takes time, probably also takes money, takes energy, drains your mind, it does that to you. And then once he's gotten all that sorted, he has to physically be in that shop and run the shop, or if he wants, he can employ a few other people and train them, but still he has to oversee that. And before he realizes he's spending all his time in the shop and so little time doing anything else. That's if he had that time to start with. If he didn't have that time, basically that's it. The business collapses after a couple of months, because probably he's still employed, he still works, and he can't oversee the shop, and the shop dies out because he doesn't have the time. But all that problem, all those shenanigans came because this person at the beginning thought he was investing. He thought his money was going to work for him. He didn't realize that the venture he was getting himself involved in wasn't actually an investment. It was actually a business. It needed his skill, it needed his time, and he didn't factor all those things in. So as a result, the whole thing fails, not because a grocery store is not a feasible business, or a corner shop is not a viable business. No, but it's because this person got himself in something he was not prepared to do. He thought he was investing, but he ended up getting himself a business, and he didn't have the time nor the skill to be able to make that viable. So you see, so understanding this distinction is very important. So that when you're getting yourself, before you throw your money anywhere into any venture, you have to ask yourself that question: that am I investing my money here, or am I starting a new business? Okay? If someone apologies, guys. Please could you all mute yourself if you're not talking? Let me see if I can mute people from my end. Let me see if I can mute everybody. Right. Good. Right. So yeah, so it's very important to understand this distinction. So that before you throw your money anywhere, the first question you need to ask yourself is, am I getting myself into a business venture, or am I getting myself an investment? And so if the answer is an investment, and that's what you're looking for, and how do you know whether it's investment? The fact that it will not require your skill or your time for it to bring returns. If that's the case, then it's an investment. Fine. If that's not the case, if then you have to put in your skill and your time in it, then you need to know that that is a business you're getting yourself in, and you need to equip yourself before you get yourself deeper and deeper in that. Because if you don't, then you're doomed. You've doomed yourself to fail. So that distinction is really, really important. Right. Where was I? Right. Another fantastic book I'd like to recommend to you. It's called Cash Flow Quadrant, A Guide to Financial Freedom by Robert Kiyosaki, who is also the writer of the famous Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Basically, Cash Flow Quadrant is like a spin-off of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and he's just brought some of this principles and things he spoke about in Rich Dad Poor Dad, and kind of ran with them and kind of elaborated more on them, especially this quadrant, the cash flow quadrant, basically the schematic you see right in front of you. And it's become a very popular schematic when it comes to explaining investment, especially to people who are not too familiar with what investment is. And it goes like this. You can see that you've got the letter E, S, B, and I, and they stand for employee, self-employed, business owner, and investor. And in a nutshell, basically, Kiyosaki describes it like this. If you're an employee, that means you have a job. If you're self-employed, it means you own that job. You still work. The only difference is that you own it, and therefore you work for yourself. Basically, you're your own boss. B, business owner, it means you own a system that works for you. Now, that is a very important difference between a business owner and self-employed. A person who is self-employed, usually he doesn't really need a system, because he's basically he is the system. Let me put it that way. You know, say for instance, you're an accountant. Maybe I'll come back to that example once I've mentioned them all, and then I'll use that example as a tool to describe what I'm trying to say. And the final one is investor, which basically means money works for you, like I explained before. Now let me go back to the example of an accountant. I was going to say you're an accountant. That's your profession. Okay. You can be an employee as an accountant. You know, you have your qualification, you have a great resume, you go around looking for work, you apply here, there, and everywhere, you get a job, you become an employee, you work for a certain company, PricewaterhouseCoopers, you know, or I don't know what other great companies are out there. Great, you know, very lavish, great, luxurious, elaborate companies. But you're an employee, so you work for them, so you have a job. What does that mean? It means basically you're working on someone else's system. Someone has created a system of work that people come in and put in hours of time and skill to generate income, both for themselves and the employer. So the employer is the one who owns that system. So he creates this pool of people that are coming into his system, and as they work that system, they're creating income for themselves and for him. So he's created leverage using other people. They're using the other people's skills and time and physical resources to leverage it to get income for himself. So that's what an employee is. You work for someone else. You work on someone else's business. You work on someone else's system. The next level up is self-employed. Now I'm calling it the next level up, but I'm maybe that is not the right way of putting it, because it creates an impression that a self-employed person is better off to a person who is employed, or a business owner is better off to a person who is employed or self-employed. And far from it. I am not suggesting that at all. You can be an employee all your life and still achieve financial freedom. You can be self-employed all your life and still achieve financial freedom. You can be a business owner and still achieve financial freedom. Okay? But it all ties up to one thing. Somehow, all of you, an employee, self-employed, business owner, you all have to learn to be investors. That's the key to financial freedom. You all need to learn to be investors. But it does not mean that a business owner is superior to an employee. Far from it. It depends on people's circumstances. It depends on people's vocation. It depends on people's callings. It depends on people's personalities even. You know, not everyone can be a business owner. Not because not everybody's an entrepreneur. You know, so the notion that I must own a business. If I don't own a business, then I'm a failure, is a myth. And you should not look at it that way. So okay, I've talked about employee. And let me say another level, not necessarily the next level, but another level will be self-employed. Now, self-employed basically in this case is where you are not working for someone else, you're working for yourself. Now I'm going back to the example of the accountant. The accountant now has decided that I've been working for PwC for so long now. I think I need to venture out on my own and start, you know, doing my own work. You know, so what does he do? He quits his job and he starts freelancing. Okay, he starts freelancing, doing people's books on the side, you know, going out to small firms and saying, look, I'm an accountant, maybe I'm a chartered accountant, here are my qualifications, you know, if you need any work on your books every end of the year, you know, here's my business card, give me a call, my name is so-and-so, you know, I'll be more than happy to help. Or he goes around his friends and say, look, guys, you know, if you want any advice on financial matters, maybe he's also a qualified advisor, I don't know. You know, if you want an advice, you know, you can come to me, I can give you great advice for, you know, pennies, this, that, and the other. So he does that. So he's self-employed. He's working for himself. Okay, he hasn't got any system whatsoever, but he's working for himself. So he's trading his own time and his own skills to make a living directly to himself. Unlike the employee who trades his time and skills to the employer, so that the employer may pay him. You see the difference. Okay, so that's self-employed. So this guy does that for a year or two. And then he says, you know what, this is kind of nice. This kind of works. This is really good. You know, I can make a business out of this. Okay. So what does he decide to do? He says, right, now I'm gonna create a firm. I'm gonna create an accountancy firm. Okay. So he comes up with this fancy name, you know, Lifetime Success Accountancy, you know, and he gets all the registrations and paperwork, and he realizes that now he can't manage the office on his own, so he gets himself an assistant at the office. You know, he starts taking up more work. You know, he starts getting bigger clients. They come in with works which demand so much of his time. Quickly, he realizes he can't do it on his own, so he starts employing other accountants to come and work for him. But then he realizes that he needs to have a system that could work, because before he was on his own, he was doing everything. He didn't need a system, but now he's got assistants. He's got, you know, other accountants. Maybe he even needs to employ cleaners to come in and clean every other day, because the office starts to stink because there's so many people in there. So he needs to create a system to make that business work. And so he realized that, oh, this is not going to work with it. So he starts creating a system, a workflow chart, you know, what people need to do. He starts creating job descriptions for people, what they need to do. He starts setting rules at work, what time people need to come into work, this, that, and the other. You know, he creates all this system and everything. He starts setting scales and people, and you start having supervisors so that people can start almost like self-regulating themselves. So he does all this. It takes him a while. It takes blood and sweat for him to do that, but it pays off. After a couple of years, he can sit back, he can afford to take a holiday, because now he has a system that can work. Okay, now he's graduated into a business owner. Okay, why is it a business owner? Not because he's got employees necessarily, but because he has a system that he has created that he still needs to oversee, whether as a manager, as a CEO, as a director, it doesn't matter, but he needs to oversee. But that system has an element of autonomy to it. There is an element of it working, you know, that people need to come in, put in their hours and their skills to make it work and generate income for themselves and for him, basically. So he has become a business owner. Okay, he does that for several years. And then he gets to his around his 50s. He starts thinking and says, you know what, I'm going to get to 60. I'm not going to be able to run this thing forever. I need to start having an exit plan here. So what do? Maybe this company has become so big, I need to float it. So he floats the company, puts it on the stock market, okay, sells the shares to people, and then the money he gets from it, rather than putting it back in the same business, he invests it in other companies. You know, it could be other accountancy firms that he doesn't work for, but he loves them because they're doing so well, so he invests in them. Or he might even go and invest elsewhere. Oil and gas. I seem to love oil and gas a lot now. or something else. He puts the money there. Or Google, or some indices, you know, S&P 500, FTSE 100, whatever. So he invests here, there, and everywhere. okay? And that becomes a passive income for him because he doesn't need to work there, he doesn't need to skill, he doesn't need to spend time, but his money is there for him, so now he's not worried. You know, he's got his retirement sorted out. He can now continue doing his business, happily knowing that he can retire anytime because his finances are all sorted out, you know. So now he's graduated from being a business owner to an investor. He may still own a business, but he's now also an investor. Now, there is one thing that I want you to realize in this particular case. He didn't necessarily need to be a business owner to be an investor. He could have started being an investor when he was self-employed. All he needed to do, he needed to start investing in other people's companies while he's working for himself. He could have started investing while he was still an employee, and maybe he did, who knows? He could have started putting money away towards his pension while he's employed. That's what a lot of us do. Okay, he could have started investing in stocks and shares while he's still employed. So he's an investor, but also an employee. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. To achieve financial freedom, you don't have to own a business to do that. You don't have to be self-employed to do that, but you need to find ways to invest. You need to be able to create passive incomes to be able to achieve financial freedom. Okay, I want to point something really quick on this point before I invite people to contribute on the issue of investing. That last time we talked a little bit about creating multiple streams of income, and that is brilliant. And we will set some time in the future once we finish this series on financial freedom. Maybe we might talk about business, because I think that's another area that is really important for us to really brainstorm and talk about. But when you talk of multiple streams of income, I think you really need to remember the distinction between business and investment, because when you're talking about trying to create multiple streams of income, you have to remember that if you're going to be starting new businesses and new ventures, they will take your time, your skill, your energy, your emotions. They will take everything. Okay, they will demand everything. So while people it might be easy to talk about, you know, I've got multiple streams of income, you know, I've got this, that, and the other. You have to ask yourself a question: will I be able to manage all these things if they are all businesses? Okay. So ideally, this is my rule of thumb. Do not diversify your business. Diversify your investments. Okay. Let me expound a little bit on that. My theory is, if you're good at something, then focus on what you're good at and throw all your energy and your skill and your time to perfect what you're good at. Okay, and let that be your business. Okay, and do it to the best of your ability and get it as far as you can. Okay, whether that be as an employee, you're a very good accountant, you're a very good salesman, you're a very good nurse, you're a very good doctor, you're a very good preacher, whatever it is your business. You know, just focus on that and do it to the best of your ability. Just focus on that one thing. Don't try and do so many things together. Don't try and get yourself involved in so many different businesses, because you'll end up being jack of all trades. Okay. But when it comes to investments, now I'm talking about the passive element of it. Okay, that's when you say don't throw all your eggs in one basket. You know, you want to diversify it as much as possible. And that's why you hear things about diversified portfolios and this, that, and the other, that you're investing in different portfolios in case that doesn't do so well, this will do well. If that doesn't do well, this does well, that kind of thing. So diversify your investments, focus on your business. Okay, so saying that, I do not mean that you should not venture into other businesses other than the one that you're doing. But I'm just throwing this as a caution to you that when you do that, you have to be mindful that that will require your time and your skill, which you might not have factored in at the beginning. And that could be the reason why the business might end up failing, because you thought you were investing. You thought you were diversifying. You thought you were creating multiple streams of income. But what you ended up doing is ending up spreading yourself thin. And as a result, you became jack of all trade and master of none. Okay? So I'm just going to throw that out there. And something to think about when you're considering creating multiple streams of income, because sometimes people might think like, so maybe I need to get a second job, and so someone needs to look for a second job, or something. I need to start a business, but then they start a business without really thinking that might need so much time, and then their employment gets in the way, and this, that, and the other, and they end up being mediocre at work because they're not really doing their work so great. So they're not really doing well at work, and their business doesn't do so great because they have to spend half the time going to work, or they're so tired by the time they're looking at their business. And before you know it, everything is mediocre. Okay, so you really need to think through what it is exactly you want, and factor in all these things that we've been talking about to help you navigate that space. Right. Now, before I talk about the assets and liabilities, I just want to allow for a bit of time for people to come in a little bit and contribute towards what we've been talking so far. What do you guys think? I want to hear your thoughts, guys. You can unmute yourself and come in.
I think all that you have said is self-explanatory. So it's thinking that is with me. I don't know about the others. It's thinking well with me. I don't know about the others.
Thank you, Mitchell. What do you guys think? Rennie, I can see a smack on your face. You have this smile.
Yeah, the thing is, you've said a lot, so it's really hard to sort of like, you know, I do agree with where you're going. At first I was a little bit hesitant. I was a bit disagreeing in what you're saying, but then I think I understand where you're coming from, and there's a bit of a point, because when you talked about sort of businesses and investment, that there are two different things. In my head, I was thinking, but you could invest in a business in the sense that, so for instance, houses, say, yeah, say, okay, fine, I'm making money. Instead of me, instead of me spending my money, my savings in the bank, right? I could use that money and go and buy a buy-to-let house, you know, so that if I had sort of like 3 buy-to-lets, that's a business in itself, and I've invested my money on that buy-to-let. You know, that's how I was thinking. But then again, I think the way you're bringing it up, like the last sort of kind of topic where you said you could actually build this after a few years and say, you know what, actually, because yeah, even if it's a buy-to-let, there's ways it's still, as much as it's making you that passive income, it needs time to run it and manage it. But I kind of like the way you close it, saying, you know, after some time you could decide, you know, once you set up the right systems for it to run itself, then you know, you could easily excuse yourself out of it, you know. So yeah, so far, like Bishop has said, I think it's self-explanatory. It's just a path. The way I was seeing it from my perspective, and the way you brought it out was too different, but I see where you're going with all this. So I'll be patient and just wait once.
I like the way you put it. I totally agree with you, Rennie. There is a lot of overlap when you talk of investing in business, and that's the reason why a lot of people get confused, because of those overlaps. Like you're saying, if you're starting your business, of course you put in your money there, you're injecting a capital, so you're investing your money. You know, so you are investing, and that's just one way of putting it. There are lots of other ways, like you described it. So basically, what I've been trying to do is to kind of pull them apart and go to the extremities. Like in the one extreme, when you're talking about investment in its purest sense, it means basically it doesn't need your time or skill. You know, and business in its purest sense, it means you put in your time and skill to get the income, you know. But then there is a lot of overlap. Like I say, you can own a business where you can walk away for 2 months and it will still run. So you can kind of say, that is passive, you know what I mean? So it's not an investment. So there is that overlap, but in its purest sense, you have to understand those distinctions, and that will help you navigate all this overlap that might come in between. Because now you understand when you're getting yourself involved in anything, you have to ask yourself a question, how much time? For instance, you've given a really good example. And a lot of people have actually failed when it comes to property investing, and I'm putting investing in inverted commas, okay? because of what you've just said. Someone says, oh, I can do buy to let. And in their minds, they think it's passive, okay? They think it's something they can, they just put the money in there and they walk away and they continue doing their stuff and they will make money. You understand what I'm saying? What they didn't realize is that actually they're starting some form of business, because it requires them to, it requires skill. First of all, it requires skill, how you're going to, how you find those houses, how you do this, you need to spot good houses, how do you do that? You need to start scavenging different markets, probably have to start attending auctions, maybe. I don't know what your model is, maybe you need to start doing this. And they don't do any of that because they think this thing is passive. So all they do, they just throw in the money there, and before they know it, it ends up in a drain like anywhere else, and they lose it and think, that was a scam. You understand? So you're right. Can have properties be an investment? Yes. Is it always an investment? No. Sometimes you might be getting yourself into business. It requires your time, your skill, everything, and you didn't factor that in at the beginning, and it becomes a downfall. So all the things I've been saying, though they're kind of extremes, but they can be used in different settings to almost like inform you what you need to do next, if you understand what I'm saying. Okay. For instance, you could opt for, if you're looking for pure investment, for instance, you have absolutely no time, you're not too interested in the scale of it. There are investment options in the property market. There are people who are actually doing those businesses, and basically they will scout for you, they will houses for you, obviously on a commission basis, and they're making a lot of money out of that for you, from you. But then they're doing all the skilled bit and the time consuming bit. And all you're doing basically, they offer you a package, almost like a pre-designed package that you're putting in this amount of money on these properties, we're doing this, that, and the other, and over this time, this is what happens, and then after this time, you end up owning this house and this, that kind of thing. So that becomes more passive in that sense, and therefore it might be more suited if that's what you were looking for. But it's before you can even consider those things, you have to understand what you're getting yourself into. And that's where the distinction between business and investment comes, if you understand where I'm coming from. So, yeah, okay. Anybody else had something to say? And then we'll continue.
Yeah, I wanted to say something. Thank you so much for the presentation. Yes, I didn't use my phone. I'm using another phone. That's why my name, you cannot see my name there. Yeah, I concur with you in terms of, thank you. In terms of property investment, actually, there are some people who they can do things for you, but also there is another way. For example, you see a lot of estate agents that we see on the street here. Wherever you go, any place you go, you'll see an estate agent. Those estate agents, they host a lot of properties for the investors. So you can buy your property and then they can manage for you. So the only thing that they do, they find everything. They can find a tenant for you. They do all the maintenance for you. And then from that rent that you receive every single month, they take, most of them is 10 to 12%. Some of them who are greedy up to 14% or so. So they do everything for you. In that way, you invest. And then there are some other property companies that, as Charles said, who can do everything for you. They can even find property for you. You just put your money and they do it for you. Here in UK, there are a lot of people from Dubai, from America, from other countries who are investing a lot in property in this country because the properties here appreciate and they make a lot of money out of that. But they just find something. There are those companies, they put money, those companies, they do everything for you, while themselves, they enjoy sunshine in Dubai, and then they make money in that way. So there's different way. And also there is another way where you can invest in these big companies that are building properties, because those companies that are building property, it's not that every money is there. There are some people who are investing behind. So you can put your money there and then you do that. For example, somebody like Robert Kiyosaki, who is expert, what he does most of the time, when there's a company building the houses, he can go there and then he says, okay, I want to buy 10 houses in this, probably in this area that you are building. I'll buy 10 houses. Probably one house is like 300,000. He will bargain because at the start they say, okay, I'll buy 10 for 280 each house. He put the money. The moment they are starting building, by the time they are finished, those houses, they have already appreciated. When they sell, he take his money, he goes, you know. So he just put the money. That's why it's very good to have money, because when you have money, money works for you. So he does those kind of things. You find people are building, he has already put his money, sometimes he put an order without even paying, or he can put a down payment. By the time those properties are sold, you know, he sells them, he take his money, and then he pay the balance, and then he's gone, you know. So the money just works for you. He has done nothing. It's just to spot an opportunity, invest the money there. The money appreciates. When we sell, he sells, you know, everything. And he negotiates, of course, because he cannot be everywhere, but people, they do things for him. And in terms of business, Charles, you said about setting the system. On diversification there, I can say something. When you are a not sole trader per se, but if you have employed yourself in your business, you are working for yourself, it is quite difficult to diversify. But when you have set the system, then the business has grown, the business can go and diversify and do other business. For example, I'll give an example, something like Tesco. You know, Tesco, when they started probably selling foods and stuff, you know, and then as they set their system, they started expanding in different areas. But that's when the system was already operating, you know. And also when you have that system, it can attract a lot of people. So you find, like in Tesco, probably not everything is owned by probably few people. No, there's a lot of people who are interested because of that brand. You know, like Richard Branson, you find he has got Virgin. Probably not everything he owns himself, but because of the brand, so some other people, they come, they do business because of the brand. I remember when I was doing my degree in business, we were studying about brand, and I think it's very important to, when you build a business, to build a reputation and to build a very good brand. Because some people, they were just going to Virgin, they just want to get that brand. They do their own business, but they go so Virgin, they will investigate that business, they will check everything, and then they check if they can put their brand. So they put their brand there, they get the money, and those people are doing business under that name, you know. So when you build a very strong system, then you can diversify, and also you can create that platform where other people, they can come and do business in the same. For example, Uber as well. When they started taxi, but now there is Uber delivering food and a lot of things under Uber. So when you have created system, then it's easy for that system to diversify and take advantage of opportunity, you know. But when you are doing alone, it's very difficult. You will have to probably duplicate yourself or something. Otherwise, you're not gonna get, you know, advantage to. I mean, in everything. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you so much, Paul. In case
Thank you. What's your name?
My name is Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
In case you didn't pick it up, Paul is so passionate about property, developing business and investment, and generally business and stuff like that. And he's invested a lot of his time and learning into that. And yeah, and what he said alongside Rennie as well, is spot on. But and like I said before, I think we need to have a separate session where we will talk a lot about business, you know, and because when you start talking about branding and this, that you've already gone into the business territory of things. You've kind of started running away from the investment side of things. But we'll definitely have time and really talk about that, because all these are really important stuff, and they apply to us all. You know, a lot of people think branding only applies when you're creating your own business. Even as an employee, you can use the branding principles to get the best out of your employment. You know what I mean? The best branded employee is the one that gets all the promotions, not the hardest working employee. Well, we'll get to that on another day. But yeah, all these points are very important, and I think it's important to have this kind of discussion. I mean, you don't have to agree with everything I'm saying. The good thing about this discussion is that it gets pulled from all angles, from all directions, from all viewpoints, and therefore it becomes relevant in all different situations, because different situations call for different intervention, if you like. So yeah. So this is absolutely brilliant. I just want to point. You used one point that I think I'm not sure whether it's Paul or Renson it's spoken about leverage, and I wanted to use that as an example back in the Robert Kiyosaki cash flow quadrant, that schematic that I showed you earlier. When it comes to leverage, you know, when it comes to business, when it comes to making money, when it comes to creating wealth, it's all about leverage. And the greater your leverage is, the better. When you're an employee, your leverage basically, in reality, per se, based on what it depends on how you define leverage, to be honest. But per se, it's the employer that has leverage over you. You know, it's the employer that has leverage over the employee. What does that mean? Basically, it means that the employer is using the employee's time and skill and you know, the physical resources, presence, you know, someone being there, someone speaking, someone actually doing the work, using them as a leverage to make money for the company. Obviously, in that process, the employee also gets salary, but basically the employee becomes the leverage of the business owner. When you move to the self-employed, you do have a leverage, but you become your own leverage. So basically, you are leveraging your income on yourself. So basically, it's like, that's when it gets to the stage of self-employment. It's like, to make more money, you need to either clock in more hours, or you need to improve your skill, or, you know, be more skillful and charge more for your services, or I don't know, work harder maybe. I don't know. But basically you're leveraging against your skills, your time, and your energy, basically. When it goes to the business owner, your leverage moves on. It's like, now you're leveraging, obviously you're still leveraging your skill and your time still, depending on how you're running your business, but you're also leveraging on other people's time and skill, okay, and energy. The same way that the other businesses were leveraging on you when you're an employer, an employee. So now, if you're a business owner, you've kind of turned the tables, and now you're leveraging it on the employees. That means a part of what they do comes to you. That's the meaning of leverage. Leverage is when you're using someone else's resources to add to your own. Okay, so it's like when you leverage on a loan, or you leverage on a bank, a fund, or whatever. Basically, what you're doing is you might have some money, you're putting it in there, but you using the bank's funds, you're getting part of the returns of the bank's fund that comes to you, if that makes sense. So basically, you put small amount of money, but you're getting big returns, not so much because of the amount of money you put, but because of the leverage, the fund from the bank that adds to what you're having. Basically, in a nutshell, that's in simplified form, that's what leverage is. So in this case, basically the business owner puts in some work, but the returns the business owner gets is not all from what the work he's putting himself, but it's from the work that others have put as well in that business. So he's leveraged it on their skills and the time. I hope that makes sense. When you go to investments, you're not directly leveraging it on employees because they don't work for you, but you are leveraging on other companies. Okay, so basically, if I invest in Google, for instance, basically, depending on my shares in Google, basically I'm leveraging my share or my stake in that company on the success of Google. So whatever Google does successfully as a company, I've got absolutely nothing to do with it. I have no skill. I'm not involved in any of that. Whatever they make out of that, whatever success comes out of that, part of it is mine. Do you see what I'm saying? So basically, my success is tied not just to the money I've put in. That will determine the percentage of what I get, but it's tied to how successful that company is, if that makes sense. So if I do that in multiple companies, for instance, if I'm investing, say, in S&P 500, which is like the 500 biggest companies in the US economy. So basically, I've spread it out in all of them, and I've leveraged my income, passive, in this case, to the success of those companies, or failures as well. I mean, I'm not saying that it's all success. Some companies go bust and I lose money. That will happen in investment as well. But then if I've spread it that way, then chances of that really hitting me hard is lower and all that. But generally, leveraging, that's how it works. So at that stage, I'm leveraging against the companies, as opposed to the business owner, where you're leveraging against the employees, and self-employed as you're leveraging against yourself, and as an employee, in which case someone else is using as leverage for their business. Now let me go back quickly to the presentation. Where was I? Here it is. I want to quickly talk about assets and liabilities. Now, when it comes to investing, you have to get the concept of assets and liabilities, and you have to get it in the sense that you have to know what an asset is and what a liability is. Okay, and I mean, you can go to university to study this. You can take a course at your local college just to learn what asset is and liability is, and you can spend a year there learning about this. So there are so many definitions, there are so many ways to explain this, and some of them are so elaborate and very specific to different scenarios. But I love the way Robert Kiyosaki puts it in his book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and also in the cash flow quadrant. And he simply defines an asset as something that generates positive cash flow, okay? And a liability as something that generates negative cash flow. Now, these definitions might not be academically sound, okay? Or necessarily academically correct. Like I said before, the definitions can be very intricate and very technical and all that, and I don't want to get into that. But these definitions are extremely practical, that assets generate positive cash flow, and that liabilities generate negative cash flow. If you can understand that, it can help you immensely navigating through the space of investing. Okay. Now, what does cash flow mean? What does positive cash flow mean? What does negative cash flow mean? Basically, positive cash flow is that money comes into your pocket. I'll put it as simple as that. Negative cash flow, it means money goes out of your pocket. As simple as that. So if you get yourself something that will continue to bring money into your pocket, or at least has the potential to bring money into your pocket, that is an asset.
Can you give us an example?
Okay. I will use the same example for both. Okay. Say you buy a car. Okay. If I'm a taxi driver and I buy a car is an asset. Okay. Now, let's not get really technical. That why is it then it might, it might come up in the liability column in my accounts and blah blah. That's why I said let's not get really technical. on the what these definitions are, but on the practical sense, it's an asset in the sense that if I'm a taxi driver, I need the car to generate income. You know, I use that car when I drive it, I drive people in it, I make money as a result of owning that car. Okay, so the car becomes an asset to me. Okay, but if I am not a taxi driver, I just need a car for leisure. I just need a car for social things. You know, just a flashy car to, like, you know, just have fun around and really enjoy life, basically. Then that car is a liability. Why? Because in this case, that car is not going to bring me any money. If anything, that car is going to cost me more money in fuel, in expenses, in everything else. Probably even my lifestyle will change because I will start going out a lot more and end up spending a lot more as a result. So the car has become a source of me going out of pocket, if that makes sense. So it's become a liability rather than an asset. So it's the same car. To one person, it was an asset. To the other person, it's a liability. Now, why have I used the same example? I've used the same example to show you that you don't tell something to be an asset just because it always is an asset. You tell whether something is an asset or a liability depending on what that thing would do for you. Okay, I'll go into another example. Say a property, a house. A house may be an asset to one person, but a liability to someone else. Okay, have you seen people, especially in this country, because of such high inheritance tax, people end up giving away their properties to local councils, or selling them to other people at a really ridiculous price, or crazy things. Sometimes you might go in the housing market and you might find this huge mansion in the middle of nowhere has been left derelict for 50 years, sitting there, and it's out on the market for peanuts. But then nobody's buying it. It's just there for so many years. And you kind of wonder, oh my God, this is so cheap. Why is nobody buying it? Same thing. People end up losing properties. Like I said before, say for inheritance tax, someone has inherited something. They need to pay a hefty 40% of the value of that thing. And basically, just because they've inherited it, they need to cough up a lot of money that they don't have or they can't afford. And as a result, that becomes a liability for them. Or they own this huge property whose maintenance is so expensive, maybe in terms of keeping, heating it up, keeping it maintained, keeping it well looked after, and it just spends a lot of money, and they can't make any of that money return as a result. So it becomes a liability for them. Okay, so it's property. All properties are assets, but for this particular person, it's a liability. And you see people doing what? Other people, because of great debts, they give them away. Others, they sell them for pennies. Others, they end up becoming bankrupt as a result of inheriting a property. But the same properties can be an asset for someone else. Paul was just talking about earlier, Rennie was talking about earlier, buy-to-let properties. You buy a property and that property starts generating income for you because you bought it, you're paying mortgage, but then you've got tenants living in there and they're paying you rent, and your rent covers mortgage and then some, and therefore it becomes an asset. Why? Because it has created a positive cash flow. It's bringing money into your pocket rather than getting money out of your pocket. You see, I don't know whether I've answered your question out. So
yes, perfectly.
So in a nutshell, that's what an asset is, and that's what a liability is. Now, just to stress that point, you cannot group these things and say, oh, houses are assets, cars are liabilities, precious stones are liabilities or assets, or because it depends on different circumstances. Say for a gemstone trader, someone who trades in jewelry, gemstones and precious metals, jewelry and diamond rings and all these things, they are assets to them because they trade in those things. They know how to get them cheaply and sell them for a profit. So it's actually bringing them money. But for a person who is just a showman, just wants to wear bling bling, bling bling guy wants to put in a gold chain and this, that, and the other, it's probably just a liability because they're not making any money off it. It's just putting them out of pocket. So it might be exactly the same thing, but it can be one thing to one person in something different to someone else. So when we talk of investing, it's very important to understand this distinction, because when you're getting yourself involved, say, in property, for instance, or you're buying something, or you're trying to do something, the question you have to ask yourself is this going to generate positive cash flow for me? If the answer is no, then the next question should be, why am I getting myself involved in this if it's not going to create positive cash flow? Or, like I said before, it may be a potential generator of positive cash flow. So it may not be immediately, especially when it comes to properties, for instance, or most other investments. Sometimes they may not give you returns immediately. So in a short term, it might leave you out of pocket, but because it has a potential to generate positive cash flow in the future, it is still an asset, because then that's what you're building yourself towards. Okay. So those are the questions you need to be asking yourself. Is this generating positive cash flow? If it does, then it's taking an asset column. If it doesn't, then it's a liability, and you need to think twice if you are interested in investing. I'm not saying you should not do it. You may still do it for the fun of it. You may still do it because you want to do it. You may still do it because that's what life is all about. Life is about enjoying it, isn't it? But then you should do that knowing that's what you're doing, rather than doing it thinking, I'm investing, but really it's not making you any money. You know what I mean? So, because I've come across a lot of people that say, oh, I'm investing in properties, or I'm investing in this, that, and the other, I'm investing in this, that, and the other, I'm investing in this. But then when you dig deep, you realize these things are just hobbies. In fact, it's just draining their pockets. It just keeps leaving them out of pocket. They could have just been honest with themselves and say, I've just got a hobby. I've just got a hobby of buying cars, or I've got a hobby of buying plots of land, or I've got a hobby in buying houses, But so those are important questions to ask yourself before you throw your money into anything else. Think, is this an asset or is it a liability? Is it generating positive cash flow or is it a negative cash flow? And then obviously there are other questions that we spoke of before. Is this a business or is it an investment? Is it going to require my skill and time, or is it just going to be passive and I can sit back and you can generate that for me? So these are important questions to ask yourself when you're thinking of investing. Okay. Right. Spending. How are we doing on time? Oh,
we're left with 10 minutes.
Well, we're almost done. So I might not even go there. So yeah, I will invite a bit of a discussion time for the next 10 minutes before we wind up. Yeah. So you're welcome, guys.
So do we have specific types of assets that will put money in your pocket? Do we know which ones?
That's what I said. Like I said before, no, we do not know. Okay. And the reason we do not know is, and that's why when I was giving an example, I was using the same thing for both sides to show you that the same thing can be an asset, but it can also be a liability depending on the person and circumstances. And therefore labeling things that this is an asset, that is a liability, is not the right way to go about. Because what is an asset to you can be a liability to someone else. Okay, and that's why when I used the example of the car, I said a car to a taxi driver is an asset, but a car to someone who just wants it for leisure is a liability. Or when I talked about the house, I said to some people it's a liability because it's leaving them bankrupt. To others, it's an asset because it's generating income for them. So the only way to tell in a particular specific scenario, and that's why use what we're talking about here as tools that you can apply to your own scenario. What the measure should be, is it generating income for you? Is it creating a positive cash flow? Does it have a potential to create a positive cash flow for you? And if the answer is yes, then that goes into the asset column. If the answer is no, and it generates negative cash flow, or it's leaving you out of pocket, then it goes into the liability. So in a short form, no. You can't say this is an asset, that is a liability. It all depends on circumstances.
So thanks for your answer. I want to ask another one. So let's say you have an asset that is taking money out of your pocket. How can you turn it around to bring money rather into your pocket? How do you turn it around?
Now,
what can you do? What action do you take? What steps do you take?
Can I answer that?
Yes.
Go ahead, Ren.
I think I'll come from the first questions which you asked. How asset and liability. I think first of all, we have to go back and start with investment. When you're looking at sort of like what Charles was talking about, I learned about investment. So personally, my advice would be like you would always, before you invest on anything, you invest on something you know. So you do the proper research. Say properties, right? If you went to go to property, you would go to do all the courses, like, you know, course being the courses. You would talk to a lot of landlords. You would try and find what they call a gold mine area where you're assured that, you know what, if I invest here, I'll be able to get an income. Right, say you go ahead and you invest into that. If it's a bad investment, if you didn't do a proper research on the house and you ended up buying that house, you could end up spending at that property to standard. That is it, that is taking money out of your pocket, like you're talking about. So how would you turn that around? I think first of all, you would try to avoid that mistake of investing in an asset that would take money off you by doing the proper research. But if you get to that point, you know, at some point, you know, when let's say it's a house and you've put in the house and it's in the right order, then you get tenants in, then you turn that around and you start bringing money into that sort of asset. That's how I would say it. But then the thing is the due diligence. If you were to go down that road, you'd have to do proper due diligence to be able to do the investment. It's the same thing as stocks. You know, I mean, you can't just say, oh, everybody's buying stocks and I'm going to buy myself a stock. You know, you have to look, okay, fine, what stock, which companies would die. Like, say you're putting on headphones. I don't know what company those headphones are. I mean, let's say they're Sony. You know, you'd be like, okay, fine, I'm liking Sony. I think I'm liking these headphones. I want to be part of this, you know, part of the investment, such that when people buy a Sony headphones, then I myself, I'm making a little bit of money from Sony. So you understand the product, you like the product, it works for you, then hence you go forth and invest in that. But what happens is a lot of us, we become consumers, so such that we want to buy these things without owning them. So just to sort of like say, okay, fine, look around your house, whatever you have, if it's Apple product, if it's the computer you're using, if you do proper research on them, there is stocks out there. You could be able to be part of the ownership if you invest in that sort of a thing. I've just tried to answer your question and expand it. I hope I haven't confused everybody here.
Okay. So my understanding here is, if you have done your due diligence well, one that can save you from running into this difficulty of money leaving your pocket all the time. That's fine. And thank you very much, Renison. God bless you.
The pleasure is all mine.
Thank you.
Can I add something on that?
Go
Yes.
for it.
Yeah. For example, I think next time when we come, when we have another session, I will come with more details. But there is one young man in USA. Actually, he was challenging these young people who want to always look bling bling, you know, because himself, he wears a lot of expensive stuff. But he says, don't look at me of what I'm wearing or what I'm driving. You know, for you, it can be a liability, but for me, it can be an asset, you know? So for example, you might find me driving a certain car, but that car, it pays for itself and it gives me money because I hire that car, you know? So there are a lot of things. I think when we come to discuss next time, I'll bring that, but to answer your question direct, especially the second one, for example, let's say you have got a certain car. That car for you, probably you might have bought it for as an investment or as an asset or whichever the case. So even if you bought it for your own pleasure or use, and then now you find this car now cost me a lot of money, but I still want to have this car, you know. So you can find ways. Probably you can put that car online and advertise it, that, you know, you can hire a car for weekends. If you want to go somewhere or wherever, there is a car here with this discount. It can give you this and this and this and this and this. So
it's like the zip car idea, isn't it? The zip car idea.
Yeah, kind of like that. But there's so many ways you can do it. For anything that you find that it takes money from you, you can turn it around and think, how can I make money out of this? If you can make money out of that, and then instead of costing you, but it bring you positive cash flow, then you have turned it from liability to an asset.
Paul, can I just interrupt there for a second? You know, like, for instance, I want to buy a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. To be honest, I wouldn't want to, and I think sometimes we can say, okay, how do I create an income out of this sort of my little asset? But then, like, I think Charles has told us about Kiyosaki a lot, and you also mentioned Kiyosaki, and I think I like one of his ideas where he says that sometimes people look at his wife and they're like, oh, she's driving a Ferrari, and they want to go ahead and buy a Ferrari. And he says the best way he goes about it is, if you want to drive a Lamborghini or a Ferrari, look for an asset that will bring you that passive income. And then with that, so say I want a Ferrari today, and I'm like, okay, if I ask probably 100 grand, hypothetically speaking, right? But instead of me spending that 100 grand buying a Ferrari, how about I use that 100 grand, buy a property that people are gonna rent that property, and in the property, that property money, it goes ahead to pay that for that Ferrari. So I'm still winning in both ways, you know. And I think that's probably if we were, because at some point, if we with all this knowledge and we put in a lot of practicality, you know, I suppose a lot of us would have the assets we need and drive the cars that we like and everything, you know. I just hope we could probably be able to use some of this information, you know, to sort of live the life we want to live, really.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Good. Well done.
Absolutely. That you put that nail right at the right place. At the end of the day, that's what we want to do. And like I said, I said at the very beginning, you know, financial freedom is all about living life in your own terms. Okay, so you dictate the terms. I don't dictate the terms for you. Nobody dictates the terms for you. That's what financial freedom is all about. So if your terms are, I want to drive a Ferrari, then we are giving you tools for you to be able to drive a Ferrari in a financially sound way, if you like. I've made that up, but yeah, there you go. You have it. That's what financial freedom is all about. And I want to go back to what Paul was talking about when he was giving the example of turning a liability into an asset. I mean, a very good example is what's happening what has happened. I mean, it's happened, well, probably 30 years ago, mostly. Most of the houses, if you go down close to town center, let me use Reading as an example. Most town centers around the London area would be the same. Most houses, as you go close to the town center, they used to be residential houses. They used to be huge family houses. Okay, look at streets like Russell Street, for instance, and what's the next one? Wyland Street. Then you've got Zinzan Street. Okay, you're going towards the town center. All those houses you see there used to be like huge houses and used to be family houses. It's like the whole thing. And I think most of them are still 3 stories and they've got a basement as well. They were just family houses, okay? And people used to own them. But over the years, they turned from being assets. I mean, not even, you can't even call them assets. They were just family houses. But they became liability over the years. Why? Because the value of how the price of houses goes so high, the price to maintain them becomes ridiculous. You know, you're talking about council tax, you're talking about this, that, and the other. And the need for big houses went down, so the market for them reduced, so their rental value didn't match their expenses, if you like. So they became liabilities. And for a lot of investors and a lot of owners, it became more financially viable to transform them into flats. I don't think there is a single one of them now that has remained as a house, as the whole thing. I mean, maybe they are, but I would say more than 99% of them all have been turned either into flats or offices, okay? Now, that is not because it's a trend, everybody does this, so I need to do this, but it's because it was a sound financial decision. You look at it and you think, this thing is a liability, this thing is draining me out of money. So I rather turn this into 3, 4, 5 flats, and because there is a greater demand for that, and the rental for those kind of flats is much higher, I can make more money out of that and be able to maintain the property that I would have otherwise not been able to maintain. Hence, most of these big houses, they kind of disappear. The only ones that remain are the ones in the countryside where the rich and famous can still afford to have them because maybe they've been very financially sound in other areas. I don't know. But you see, so in a way, yes, you can turn an asset and liability into an asset by doing 1, 2, 3, depending on what it is, and there can be things to do that. But I think suffice to say here today that you need to know the distinction and almost like they say prevention is better than cure. Almost like be financially savvy enough, early enough, not to get yourself into racking up liabilities rather than assets, because it's going to cost you to try and turn them around. And so that's what you're trying to avoid. I mean, I speak to a lot of people, a lot of diasporans, people building properties back home. I mean, I went back and lived in Tanzania for a couple of years as well. And you have people building houses, you know, and they're saying that, oh, these are investments. But you look at the kind of houses they're building, you even wonder, did they actually sit down and do the maths and really determine whether truly that property they're building, whether it is indeed an asset? You know what I mean? Someone is building a house with 300 million Tanzanian shillings, and that's not a lot of money, really, when it comes to building houses. I mean, people build houses with half a billion Tanzanian shillings and more, and they call it they call it an asset, and you kind of think, how is that an asset? Because if you look at rental markets in Tanzania for a house like that, you probably rent it out for 400,000 shillings or 500,000 shillings. So it probably take you, I don't know how many years, you do the maths, from 500,000 to 500 million. That would take you 1,000 months, which is what, over 100 years to get your money back. And how is that an asset? How is that going to make you money? It absolutely makes no sense. But then people don't do that. But if you have these tools, you have this knowledge, then you can sit down and say, right, now I want to invest in properties. I want to build houses for rent. That's how I want to build out assets. Now I need to make sure that these are going to make me money rather than taking my money from my pocket. So you do your numbers, you see how is that going to make you returns, and then you might end up choosing to build affordable houses, cheap houses, affordable. They may not cost a lot. They are modest in cost, but then probably their rental value might be higher, and therefore it can create income for you. So having that financial savviness helps you make these investment decisions based on whether it's bringing you money or taking money off your pocket, and it can really help you navigate that space in a lot of different ways. So like I said before, use these as tools in lots of different scenarios to help you make those financial decisions that can help you towards your journey to financial freedom. And I hope that will be helpful to you. I will invite one other person as the last person to make a contribution, because time has already left us, and then I will postpone this till next time. Grace.
It's been a great topic and great show, whatever. And it's a shame this platform is not full of everybody. Yeah, wisdom. Some of us this knowledge is late for some of us. We thought we've made all these mistakes in the past. If we had this knowledge, things would have been different. So this is a great, I applaud all of you for all this wisdom you have, given us here. thank you so much. I wish this place would be flooded with everybody learning from all this. Is it nuggets or what do you call it? Yeah, wisdom. Thank you so much, Charles, for laying this on. And me, I am scared to invest because of the risk involved. I've got some money sitting in the bank, but the bankers are saying invest, but I'm scared. I don't want to lose a penny on those whatever. So what do I do now? The risk involved in investing, because I've lost all my money at one point, so I'm scared. Once bitten, twice shy. So I got some savings there, and they're telling me invest, and I said no, wait. So what do I do? I need to pick your brain, Charles.
I see a lot of people lining up wanting to answer that question.
We're not answering, Charles. That's a big ball for you. We're not answering.
The moment Grace posted that question, I saw like 5 people. They all are
we wanna join the Grace to say we got some money, but we don't want to take a risk. So you tell us, and then if it goes wrong, it's your fault. You see.
I've got something for Grace.
Yeah.
Tell you one thing, yeah? Not taking a risk is a risk itself.
I know. Yeah, I'm scared.
And the thing is, I'm glad you said your money is in the bank. I mean, if you look right now, what's happening is Lloyd's Bank said it's going to invest its money in buying houses for people to rent. So the bank is using your money to make money for itself. So nobody can tell you what to invest on. The thing is, you have to do what we're talking about, due diligence, and understand something that you like. There's things they say, oh, you can go and talk to banks to advise you. But then after the PPI, the banks are scared because they don't want to advise you to invest on something, and tomorrow you come and say, you gave me the advice. So I want my money back. So the banks won't advise you now. But I mean, you might have to go to wealth management companies. They probably might be able to help you out. I mean, it's really, really hard for someone to say, oh, it's because the thing is, there was the Bitcoin stuff, which people were investing, and that was awesome. But then a lot of people lost money when Elon Musk started playing with people and saying, oh, we're doing Dogecoin, we're doing Bitcoin. So it went up and down. The thing is, it's a bit of a catch-22. With properties, you can never go wrong. I'd say that, because even when they go down, they still go up at some point. And I think Paul mentioned about Kiyosaki buying properties before they started building them. There is a lot of people who do that. I mean, like right now, I've got a friend of mine. We talk about properties a lot, and he's a big investor. He invests in Glasgow, and he buys so many properties. You can get a house for as low as 50, 60 grand for a flat, which can generate you an income of about after mortgage and all that stuff, maybe up to about £400-500 passive income, So I think at some point it's knowing the right people that can help you get from A to B.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
If I may just add on what Rennie was saying as well. When you think investing, always think long term. A lot of mistake people think when they think of investing, they're thinking of what is it going to give me tomorrow, or what's going to happen to my money tomorrow. Sometimes, like what Rennie said, investments go up and down. Like you're saying, the risk profile differs from one person to another. So you need to understand your risk profile, and there are professionals out there, there are business advisors out there, there are investment advisors. That the first thing they will sit down with you and talk to you about is about your risk profile. And they will assess your risk profile and tell you frankly that stay clear of these kind of investments because you will die of heart attack. Because we have a different appetite for it. I'm not going to tell you invest in one thing and not
Yeah,
all,
yeah,
because different investments are for different.
yeah.
But what I can tell you is, like I said before, investments is long term. Even when it goes down, like what Rain was saying, for instance, he gave a good example of properties. Even when they go down, eventually they'll come back, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for instance, people talk of the crash of 2008 and say, oh, people lost money. But no, those who lost money are those who jumped ship after the crash. Okay,
Right.
Someone who the crash happened and they panicked. Oh, houses are losing value, so let me sell mine really quickly. They
Right.
lost money.
Yeah.
But those who rode the storm and came out, house market right now is
Mhm.
way above where
Yeah.
it was
Okay.
pre-crash. Okay,
Yeah.
so these things do happen, and it's not a new thing to happen. Investment is like that. Investment is never like that. Investment is always like
Goes.
that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there are times you may join an investment when it's on its way down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And usually you panic. I'll give you a very good example. I invest personally in S&P 500, which is an index, like I said before, of 500 American companies put together as an index. And when I started investing, I panicked as well. But it's something that I had learned before, so I knew what was going to happen. What had happened is that I started with a lump sum, okay, and then I put a lump sum, and then I continued contributing every month. So when I put a lump sum, like I've put a lump sum today, tomorrow, rather than the market going up, it went down.
Yeah.
Which is what happens. It can happen on any day. Okay. So when it goes down, I open my phone to look at my investment. I say I've put so much money today. I look at it tomorrow. You know, about 5% of my money has just gone overnight, literally. You know what I mean? And I'm like, what? In a day? You panic, you know what I mean? Say, what's happening here? But then if you know that, well, I'm doing a long game here, and that it's going down does not mean it's failing. It will come back up, because that's what investment does.
Yeah.
And you've kind of done your homework, like you say, and you've got your advice, and you know that you've invested in something that you're happy to take the risk. For instance, with me, I will never invest in Bitcoin. Do people make money off Bitcoin? Absolutely. Is Bitcoin for me? Absolutely not. Why? I can't bear the risk. I can't deal with it. I don't have the time or the stomach for it. You understand?
Yeah.
I find it too risky.
Yes.
But I can invest in stocks. But even in stocks and shares, I don't invest in individual stocks. I will not go to Tesla and buy stocks of Tesla. I remember actually nearly 3 years ago, a friend of mine wrote me a text, and I have that text to this day. And she said, she said to me, buy Tesla shares and you will thank me later. That's what she told me 3 years ago. I looked at the message and threw the phone away. A couple of months ago, is it this year? Yeah, actually it was early this year. She sent me another text, and she said, since that time to this day, Tesla shares have gone up. How many times was it? I think it had gone up 400% or something like that.
Wow.
I think Tesla shares has gone up 400%. Did you buy the shares I told you to buy? I said no. I said, oh. I said, well, I might be one. But you see, so people make money buying individual stocks, but then Teslas might have gone up.
Yeah.
But there are other businesses that might have gone the other way down. The other way. So to me, again, I don't do that. I don't bank on an individual stock or share. Because I think it might go up or down. So I invest in a pool of stocks, like an index, where there's 500 companies that have been proven to do well over the years. And therefore, even if a handful of them will do bad, the others will buffer it. So the return might not be so great, but chances of losing money is also less. So that is another way of mitigating.
Right.
But then if to an advisor, they will advise you on all these options in this thing.
They have.
By no means, don't leave your money sitting in the bank.
It's sitting there.
The good thing about investment, you don't have to throw all your money at once. See how it goes. If you have an individual more, you can put some money elsewhere. You can do this depending on what you do.
Tesla said, electric cars zozote
I hope that helps.
It does. Yeah. Yes, thank you. Wonderful program. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you, everybody. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I think we should wind down now. I'm sure Stephen has something to say before I wind up, so I'll invite Steve to say a word or two. But from me, thank you so much. Thank you for spending time with us. I hope this has been helpful to you, and I hope to see you again in 2 weeks' time, where we'll continue with the next area, which I think is spending, and we might go a bit further on other things as well. So, like I said, it's just a handful of us here. It's a shame others are not hearing this, but the good thing is we are recording this. So I'll try and share this with each and every one of you. And once you've got it, please share it far and wide with others so that we can spread the information and kind of instill this conversation and steer this conversation in our communities, because we desperately need these conversations.
Yeah, we do. I agree.
Saying that, thank you very much, and over to you, Steve.
Steve.
Very much, Charles, for this actually. You know, it's really nice to hear everything overloaded. Well, it's sad, as you say, that not too many people are on this, and to me, it's not a surprise. You know, since I started doing this thing, you know, 5 or 6 years ago, yes, you know, and it's the same. You know, you won't get the multitude, but you know, for those who attend, for those who are, you know, coming, well, we come and share experience, which is really a good thing, because there's something that, you know, Auntie Grace knows I don't know. There's something that Pastor Lawyer Albert knows that I don't know. So yeah, it's a good platform, but it's a shame that, you know, people really possibly are too busy, or for one reason or the other. But yeah, so thank you everyone. I'm quite happy for that, and then God bless you, Charles. And then everyone, if you can invite somebody else, that would be amazing. More than that, let's meet again next time, and have a nice week.
All right, thank you guys. Have a wonderful time. Take care.